The air in the preparation chamber was cool and smelled of recycled oxygen and cleaning agents. The soft hum of the ship's systems was a constant, low-grade sound everyone had learned to ignore. Inside the large, white room, 50 beings from 5 different species stood in nervous clusters. They all wore the same simple gray training suits. Today was the first major drill. The alien instructors moved among them. They were tall, with long limbs and smooth, gray skin, their faces unreadable. They were not unkind, but they were distant. To them, this was a routine assessment of new galactic citizens. They called it a reflex and survival test, and one corner, away from the anxious chatter, stood Min-Su. He was a man of average height, with a calm face and dark, thoughtful eyes. Beside him was Ji-yoon, her hair tied back in a tight, practical style. They were both from Earth, from a city named Seoul, a place of mountains and relentless motion. They had been training here for 3 months, learning about starship mechanics and galactic law. This drill was unexpected. "Remember the briefing?" Ji-yoon said quietly, her eyes scanning the room. "The forest is simulated. The beast is engineered. It's just data collection." Min-Su nodded, but said nothing. He was kneeling, carefully tying the laces of his running shoes. They were not new. The fabric was faded, the soles worn thin in a familiar pattern. They were his personal items brought from home. The academy provided excellent standard boots, but he had requested permission to wear these. The instructors, seeing no tactical advantage in such old footwear, had allowed it. To them, it was sentiment. To Min-Su, it was about the feel of the ground. An instructor, whom the humans had privately named Teacher K for its long, slender head, approached. Its voice was soft and translated through the small device on their suits. "The objective is duration and evasion. The hunting beast will be released into the simulation. Your task is to avoid capture for as long as possible. We measure stress response, movement efficiency, and decision speed. There is no winning, only lasting." A nervous ripple went through the other species. A furry, short being from the planet Vreer chittered, "Will it hurt us?" "The beast's claws and teeth are real," Teacher K stated plainly. "It will cause non-lethal injury if it catches you. The medical pods will heal you. The fear, however, is genuine. Your body's reaction to that fear is what we study." Min-Su finished with his second shoe, pressing his heel down firmly. He looked up at Ji-yoon. "Like the marathon in Bukhansan," he said, a small smile on his lips. "The one with the sudden rain. The goal wasn't to outrun the storm. It was to finish despite it." Ji-yoon smiled back. She understood. She had been a rock climber. Her reflexes were not about quick jumps, but about perfect, balanced holds. She had learned to read the stone. Here, they would read the forest. A large door at the end of the chamber hissed open, revealing a wall of green. The air that drifted in was warm, damp, and full of the scent of soil and leaves. It was shockingly real. The simulation field was famous for its perfection. "Enter," Teacher K instructed. "The beast will be released in 10 of your minutes. Spread out. Use the environment." The group moved forward, some hesitantly, some with false bravery. Min-Su and Ji-yoon walked in together, their pace even. The forest closed around them. The light filtered down through a high canopy, dappling the soft ground. It was quiet, but not silent. Birdsong, artificial but convincing, echoed in the distance. They found a small rise near a trickling stream, a good place to see and listen. Around them, they could hear the others crashing through the undergrowth, scrambling to find hiding spots or to put as much distance as possible between themselves and the starting point. "They are running from a starting gun that hasn't fired yet," Ji-yoon observed, sitting on a mossy rock and checking her own boots. "Panic burns energy," Min-Su said simply. He was stretching his calves, his hands pressed against a broad tree. He was not looking for a place to hide. He was learning the space, the give of the soil, the sound of the water, the patterns of the shadows. This was his reflex. Observation.in, the observation deck high above the simulated biome. The alien instructors watched their screens. Vital signs, movement maps, and heat signatures flickered. Teacher K watched the two human signals, stationary near coordinates 7 alpha. They are not preparing. Another instructor, Teacher L, noted. Their heart rates are elevated but controlled. They are waiting. A human behavior called conserving energy, Teacher K said, consulting its data pad. It is logical, but against a predator of this speed, it is questionable logic. The countdown reached 0. A deep, vibrating roar echoed through the forest. It was a sound designed to trigger primal fear. On the screens, half of the life signs spiked into frantic yellow and red. The chase began. They saw the beast on their screens. A sleek, powerful creature moving on 6 muscular legs, its hide a pattern of shadows and leaves, its eyes glowing a faint, tracking yellow. It was fast. It moved straight toward the largest cluster of panic-driven signals. Cries of alarm, real and sharp, erupted from the speakers. Avrir was tagged and captured within the first minute, its signal blinking out as the medical team retrieved it from the simulation. The beast was ruthless, efficient, following the algorithms of chase and capture. Teacher K's attention returned to the two human signals. They were moving now but not fleeing. They were angling away from the beast's path at a steady, ground-eating jog. Minsu led, his eyes on the terrain, choosing soft earth over noisy dry leaves, keeping the stream to their side to mask sound. June followed, her head on a swivel, listening for changes in the chase's rhythm. Their reflex is not maximum speed, Teacher L said, fascinated. It is optimal route selection. It will not be enough, Teacher K replied, though it sounded less certain. The beast, having cleared the initial group, adjusted its search pattern. Its sensors found new targets, 2 heat signatures moving with steady, rhythmic purpose. Turned. The chase was now direct. Minsu heard the change. The cries had faded, replaced by the sound of something large and fast pushing through the ferns behind them. He didn't look back. He pointed to a dense thicket of vine-wrapped trees ahead. There, he said, his breath even. They reached it just as the beast broke into the clearing behind them. For the first time, Minsu saw it. It was larger than he'd imagined, a thing of coiled muscle and intent. Its eyes locked onto his. Jiun ducked into the thicket. Minsu paused for a half-second, meeting the creature's gaze. He saw not malice, but a kind of programmed hunger. Then he followed Jiun, forcing his way through the tangled vines. The beast slammed into the thicket but was slowed by the dense growth. It snarled, tearing at the vines. Inside, hidden for a moment, Minsu and Jiun caught their breath. They could hear it thrashing. It's fast on open ground, Jiun whispered, but it's heavy. It doesn't turn well in tight spaces. Minsu looked down at his worn shoes, coated in fresh mud from the stream bank. An idea, strange and quiet, began to form in his mind. It wasn't a plan yet, just a feeling. A memory of a stray dog following him home once, more interested in his lunchbox than in him. It's following movement. And heat, he murmured. But what is it really chasing? Another roar, closer. The beast was almost through. Time to move, Jiun said. Minsu nodded, his idea still half-formed. The test was on. Their real reflex, the human reflex of thought under pressure, was just beginning. The sound of the beast tearing through the thicket was like canvas ripping. Minsu and Jiun did not wait to see it break through. They moved, pushing out the other side of the tangle of vines and into a gully lined with smooth, gray stones. Their pace was urgent now but still controlled. There was no blind sprinting. Every footfall was placed with care. Behind them, with a final snap of woody stems, the hunting beast freed itself. Its glowing eyes scanned the area, finding the 2 moving heat signatures descending into the stone gully. It let out a low huff of air, a sound of frustration and renewed focus, and gave chase. The gully was a river of stone, not water. It forced a certain path. Minsu led the way, his worn shoes finding grip on the dry rock. June followed, her steps just as sure. They could hear the beast's claws scraping and clacking against the stone behind them. It was gaining. The open terrain of the gully was in its favor. We need to break its line of sight, June called. her voice steady but tight with effort. Minsu saw a split in the gully wall ahead, a crack just wide enough for a person. He pointed. Without a word, they angled toward it. June reached it first and slipped inside. Minsu followed, turning his shoulders to fit. The space inside was dark and cool, a narrow passage through the rock. The beast arrived at the crack a moment later. Could not follow. It snarled, the sound echoing painfully loud in the confined space. It began to claw at the edges of the rock, sending chips of stone flying. Inside the passage, Minsu and Ji-yoon paused, catching their breath in the darkness. The only light came from the entrance, partially blocked by the beast's furious shape. It can't get in, Ji-yoon whispered. But it knows we're here, Minsu replied. It will wait, or it will find another way around. They had a moment to think. The initial plan of steady evasion was failing. The beast was too fast, too persistent. It was learning their patterns as much as they were learning its .in the observation deck. The alien instructors watched the standoff. Teacher L leaned forward. Interesting. They used the environment's literal structure as a shield, a tactical use of terrain. But it is a temporary solution, Teacher K said. The beast's programming will not allow it to abandon a cornered target. It will simply wait until hunger simulation forces them out, or it will find the other end of that passage. The simulation's geography files show it is not a deep cave. It is a short tunnel. On the screen, the beast stopped clawing. It sat back on its haunches, its head cocked. It was waiting, a picture of terrible patience. Minsu knew they could not stay. He motioned for Ji-yoon to move deeper into the passage. It did, as Teacher K predicted, have another opening. A faint light glowed from ahead. They moved toward it, stepping as quietly as possible. The new opening looked out over a different part of the forest, a slope covered in thick ferns and fallen, mossy logs. It was quieter here. The sounds of other participants were gone. They were alone with their hunter. They crouched at the mouth of the tunnel, looking out. There was no sign of the beast. It must still be at the other entrance. What now? June asked. We run again, it will just chase. It's faster in a straight line. Minsu looked down at his shoes again. They were caked in the mud from the stream and now dusted with stone grit from the gully. He thought about the beast's behavior. It had chased the loudest, most frantic ones first. It had followed them relentlessly in the open. But it had been confused and slowed by the thicket. It was reacting, not thinking. It's a program, he said softly. It has triggers, fast movement, sudden noise, body heat. He began to unlace his right shoe. Ji-yoon stared at him. What are you doing? I have an idea, he said. It's a stupid idea, but running isn't working. He pulled the shoe off. The forest floor was cool and damp under his sock. He took off the other shoe. He held the pair in his hands, feeling their familiar weight. It's following our combined signal, our movement, our scent, our heat. What if we split the signal? He explained it quickly, his voice low. They would not run. They would walk separately in different directions away from this spot. They would move slowly, deliberately, minimizing sound. And he would leave his shoes here, in a clear, open spot at the base of a large tree. It's fixated, Minsu said. It brought its focus down to a crack in a rock for us. What if we give it a simpler target? Something that carries our scent strongly, but doesn't move. June considered it. It was a risk. Without shoes, the ground would be harder to move on. They would be slower if they needed to run again. But the current plan was leading to a predictable end. Okay, she said finally. But we meet at the big lightning-struck tree we passed earlier. The one with the split trunk. Give it 20 minutes. Then we circle back and see. Minsu nodded. He placed his shoes side by side neatly at the base of a broad, ancient-looking tree right outside the tunnel mouth. They looked small and lonely there. He took a deep breath, feeling vulnerable without them. June gave him a pat on the shoulder, a gesture of solidarity. Then she turned and began to walk, not run, into the ferns to the east. She stepped over logs. She did not push through brush. She became a part of the forest's quiet rhythm. Minsu went west. He walked with bare feet, feeling every twig and stone. It was painful, but it made him infinitely more careful and more silent. He moved from the shadow of one tree to the next, pausing to listen. Back at the tunnel's original entrance, the hunting beast's head lifted. Its sensors were confused. The two strong, moving heat signals it had been tracking had changed. They had fractured. The signals were weaker, cooler, moving apart and moving slowly. And a third, concentrated source of the familiar scent marker remained stationary. Right where the tunnel's other exit was. It made a soft, clicking sound in its throat. Its primary programming was to chase, capture, and retrieve. The stationary source was not running. But it was the source. It was the prize. The beast turned from the crack in the rock and began to lope around the stone outcrop, heading for the other side of the tunnel. Min-Su, from his hiding spot behind a fallen log 50 meters away, saw it emerge. His heart hammered against his ribs. The beast moved past the tunnel exit, its nose to the ground. It went straight to the tree. It stopped. It lowered its great head and sniffed the shoes. It nudged one with its snout. Then, with a movement that was almost gentle, it opened its jaws and picked up both shoes, holding them carefully. It lifted its head, looking around, as if expecting the rest of the prey to be nearby. But Min-Su was a shadow. June was a ghost. The forest gave nothing away. The beast stood there, holding the shoes. It did not growl. It did not charge. It seemed to be waiting for a command that did not come. The chase trigger was gone. The target was acquired, but it was not fighting, not fleeing. After a long minute, the beast turned. With a slow, purposeful trot, it began to walk back the way it had come, deeper into the forest, the human shoes dangling from its mouth. Min-Su watched it until it disappeared into the green gloom. He let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. His idea was stupid, and it had worked. For now, he had no idea what the beast would do next or what the instructors watching would think. All he knew was that the immediate chase was over. He settled behind the log to wait, the cool earth against his bare feet, and hoped Ji-yoon was safe. The forest felt different after the beast left. The air was still thick and warm, but the pressing sense of immediate danger had lifted. Min-Su remained behind his log, listening. The birdsong, which had stopped during the chase, slowly started again. It was a cautious sound, as if the forest itself was checking to see if the coast was clear. He waited a full 5 minutes, counting slowly in his head. No heavy footsteps returned. No grol sekod. He pushed himself up, his bare feet protesting against the rough bark of the log. He looked toward the lightning-struck tree, their meeting point. It was visible in the distance, its split trunk a dark scar against the green. He saw no movement near it. He began to walk toward it, his pace slow and careful. Every stone and twig was a small shock of pain. He focused on that pain, using it to keep his mind sharp. He had to find Ji-yoon. They were safer together. As he walked, he thought about the beast carrying his shoes. It hadn't mangled them. It hadn't dropped them. It had carried them with a strange purpose. The instructors said it was programmed for capture. Did it think the shoes were the capture? Did it think the hunt was over? He reached the base of the lightning-struck tree. The air here smelled of old charcoal and damp moss. He leaned against the rough bark, hidden in its shadow, and waited. A soft whistle, 2 low notes, came from his right. He turned. Ji-yoon emerged from behind a curtain of hanging vines. Her face was smudged with dirt, but her eyes were alert. She looked him up and down, seeing his bare feet. "It worked," she said. A statement, not a question. "Took them," Min-Su confirmed. "It just picked them up and walked away. Not angry, just done." Ji-yoon nodded slowly, processing this. "So its goal isn't to find us. Its goal is to catch something. And you let it catch your scent, concentrated in your shoes. It's following a list of rules, not thinking." "Exactly," Min-Su said. "We were running from a creature that follows instructions. We just gave it a different instruction to follow." They fell silent for a moment, listening. The forest was peaceful. "So what's the new plan?" Ji-yoon asked. "The drill isn't over. They haven't called it. The beast is still out there, and we have no idea where it went. And you have no shoes. Minsu looked at his socks, now filthy and torn. The first plan stays. We avoid. But now we know how to confuse it if it finds us again. We stay quiet, we move slow, and we don't let it see a running target. What if it comes back with the shoes? Jiyoon asked, a practical concern. Then we'll know it's smarter than we thought, Minsu said with a small shrug. But I don't think it will. I think it's reporting its capture somewhere. In the observation deck, the mood was one of pure confusion. Teacher L was replaying the sensor footage from the beast's point of view. It showed the approach to the shoes, the careful sniffing, the acquisition, and the subsequent trot away. The beast's internal status had shifted from hunting to objective acquired. Retrieve. Explain this. Teacher K said, its usually smooth voice carrying a ripple of static, a sign of agitation. The prey is alive and uncaptured. The beast has taken inanimate objects. Teacher L called up the beast's programming parameters. The primary directive is to pursue and secure the primary sense signature of the target. The secondary directive is to retrieve a physical component of that signature for scoring. This is to measure the closeness of the capture. Yes, a clawed piece of fabric, a drop of blood, a tuft of hair, Teacher K said. Not intact footwear. The human scent was overwhelmingly concentrated on the footwear, Teacher L observed. By removing them, he essentially placed the majority of his identifiable scent signature in one location. The beast, following its directive to secure that signature, prioritized it. It interpreted the acquisition of the concentrated signature as the completion of its task. So the human didn't outrun the beast, Teacher K said slowly. He reassigned its task. On the main screen, the locator beacon for the hunting beast was moving steadily toward the southern edge of the simulation zone, where its kennel was located. It was returning to base. Meanwhile, the two human life signs were stationary near the center of the forest, their vital signs calm and steady. The other participants, Teacher K asked. Only 7 remain active besides the 2 humans, Teacher L reported. The others were captured in the first 12 minutes. The 7 are hiding, and the beast is no longer pursuing them. Their stress levels remain extremely high. Teacher K was silent for a long time. The drill had a standard duration. The beast was supposed to hunt until all participants were found, testing their endurance. This was an unprecedented early return. Should we reset the beast? Send it back in? Teacher L asked. Teacher K considered. That would violate the stated rules of the test. The beast had been released once. It was now returning with what it considered a successful retrieval. To send it back in would be to change the test midstream, an admission that the humans had broken their model. It was poor science. No, Teacher K said finally. We observe. The test continues until time runs out. The humans have avoided capture by the beast. That is the technical objective. How they achieved it is data. Down in the forest, Minsu and Jiyoon decided to move. Staying in one place for too long felt risky. They needed to find water and a more secure spot to wait out the remaining time. Minsu's feet were a problem. Jiyoon took the lead, scouting the path ahead for the softest ground. They moved like this for another hour, a slow, careful migration deeper into a rocky area with many shallow caves and overhangs. They found a small stream, and Minsu sat on a rock, washing the dirt from his sore feet. The cold water was a relief. Jiyoon kept watch, her eyes scanning the tree line. They must have seen what happened, Jiyoon said quietly. The instructors. What do you think they're thinking? I think they're waiting to see what we do next, Minsu said. This is a test of reflexes. Our reflex was to stop running. He finished cleaning his feet and tore strips from the bottom of his gray training suit pants. He wrapped his feet in the fabric, creating crude, padded bindings. They would protect him a little, at least. As he worked, a sound made them both freeze. It was not the beast. It was a voice, choked with tears and panic. It was coming from further down the stream. They exchanged a look. The drill was individual. Helping others could expose them. But the sound was one of pure fear. Minsu stood on his newly wrapped feet. June gave a single, sharp nod. Together, they moved silently toward the sound. The voice led them to a small, muddy clearing by the stream. A young vreer was there, huddled against the roots of a massive tree. Its fur was matted with mud and leaves. One of its 3 legs was held awkwardly off the ground, clearly injured. Its large, dark eyes were wide with terror, and it was making soft, whimpering sounds. When it saw Minsu and June emerge from the foliage, it flinched, pressing itself harder against the tree. It did not see them as rescuers, but as more potential threats. June stopped moving immediately. She knelt down, making herself smaller, less intimidating. Minsu stayed back, understanding her approach. She had always been good with scared animals back home. "It's okay," June said, her voice low and even. She spoke in the common galactic tongue, slowly. "We are not the beast. We are not going to hurt you." The vreer stared, its whiskers twitching. It recognized their species.
Humans.
They had been quiet in training, not aggressive. Its whimpering slowed to a shaky silence. "You are hurt," Jiyun said, stating it plainly. She pointed to her own leg, then gently pointed toward the vreer's injured limb. "Can we look?" The vreer, a young male named Cha, looked from Jiyun's calm face to Minsu, who gave a small, non-threatening nod. Survival instinct warred with fear. Finally, Cha gave a tiny, jerky nod of his head. June moved forward slowly. Minsu scanned the forest around them, listening for any sign of the hunting beast, though he felt in his bones it was gone. His job was watch. Cha's leg was not broken, but it was badly sprained from a fall during his panicked run. June examined it with careful hands. "You need to keep pressure off it," she said. "You cannot run." "The beast?" Cha whispered, his voice thin with fear. "It will smell the blood. It will come." "The beast is gone," Minsu said from his post. He did not turn around, keeping his eyes on the trees. "It left the forest." Cha blinked, disbelief clear on his small face. "It cannot be gone. The test is not over. It hunts until all are found." "It found what it was looking for," Minsu said simply. He did not explain about the shoes. It was too strange. June used more strips of cloth from her own suit, along with a straight, strong stick she found, to fashion a rough splint for Cha's leg. She worked with a quiet efficiency. Cha watched her, his initial fear giving way to a dazed confusion. "Why are you helping?" Cha asked finally. "Your chance to last longer increases if I am caught." June tied off the last knot firmly but not too tight. She sat back on her heels. "Because you are hurt, and because the beast is not coming. Hiding alone, injured, is a slow way to fail. Together, we can make a better plan." It was practical, but there was a kindness in it that Chu understood. His body relaxed a fraction. Minsu finally turned. "We found a place, a cluster of rocks with good cover and a view. It is not far. Can you hop with help?" Cha nodded. With Minsu on one side and Jiyun on the other, they helped the small alien to his feet. Moving was slow and awkward. They formed a strange, 3-legged procession, leaving the muddy clearing behind as they moved. Cha spoke in bursts, his fear loosening his tongue. He told them how the beast had seemed to come from nowhere, how his friends had scattered, how he had fallen. He described the pure, mind-numbing panic that had taken over. It was a feeling Minsu and Jiyun understood but had consciously pushed down. They reached the rocky overhang Minsu had spotted earlier. It was a good spot. The stone ceiling was low, creating a sheltered space that was dry and hidden from above by a net of old vines. From the entrance, they could see a long stretch of the forest floor below. They settled Chu onto a bed of dry leaves. The tension of the last few hours began to settle on them all. With the immediate action over, the reality of their situation set in. They were still in the test. The instructors were still watching, and they had no idea how much time was left on the observation deck. The 3 instructors were focused on this new development. "Fascinating," Teacher L said, its long fingers tapping a screen. "The humans have shifted from evasion to triage and consolidation. They have formed a team. It is an inefficient strategy for individual survival scoring, noted a third instructor, Teacher R, who had been silent until now. Is it? Teacher K countered. Consider. The Vreer was a liability, injured, loud, emitting high-stress pheromones. Alone, it would have been a beacon for the beast, or it would have forced a medical retrieval, ending its test. By aiding it, the humans have neutralized that beacon. They have secured the area. They have gained an extra set of eyes, even if the body is injured. They have turned a competitor into an asset. The other instructors considered this. The data streams showed the humans' heart rates were low, their breathing even. The Vreer's vital signs were stabilizing, its terror spikes smoothing into a watchful anxiety. As a unit, they were calmer, more effective. But the beast is no longer a factor, Teacher said. So what is the test now? Teacher K watched the three figures in the rocky shelter. The human male was rewrapping his feet with practiced motions. The human female was offering water from a broad leaf to the Vreer. They were talking in low tones. The test, Teacher K said softly, is revealing what we are truly measuring. We said it was reflexes, but perhaps for some species, the primary reflex is not to flee or to fight, but to think. And then to cooperate. Down in the shelter, the afternoon light began to slant through the trees, painting long shadows. Minsu finished with his feet and moved to the entrance to keep watch. Jiun sat with Che, showing him how to listen for specific sounds in the forest, the difference between a bird's alarm call and its normal song. How long has it been? Che asked, his voice small in the quiet space. Hours, Jiun said. The drill was meant to test endurance. I think we are enduring. But what is the end? Che pressed. If the beast is gone, how does it finish? Minsu spoke from the entrance, his back to them. It finishes when they decide we have learned what they wanted to teach. Or when they get bored. He looked out at the peaceful, simulated forest. It was a beautiful place, he thought. It was designed to feel real, to feel threatening. But the greatest threat had been tricked by a pair of old shoes. And the real challenge had become something else entirely. Waiting, caring for an injured stranger, and wondering what the point of it all was. A soft chime echoed through the forest, clear and artificial. It was not a natural sound. It came from everywhere at once. All three of them froze. The chime sounded again, too pleasant, ringing notes. Then Teacher K's translated voice, calm and neutral, filled the air. The drill is concluded. Please remain where you are. Recovery teams will arrive shortly to escort you from the simulation. It was over. Just like that. Chuo let out a shuddering sigh of pure relief. Jiun leaned back against the stone wall, closing her eyes for a moment. Minsu remained standing, looking out at the trees. He felt no triumph, only a deep tiredness, and a nagging curiosity. The beast had returned with his shoes. What did the instructors make of that? What happened next? The test of reflexes was done, but he had a feeling the real test was just beginning. The recovery teams were swift and silent. They emerged from the trees not as rescuers, but as efficient collectors. They were drones, floating discs of polished metal that hovered at chest height. A soft blue light scanned each of them. One drone extended a medical arm toward Che, spraying a cold mist over his sprained leg. The swelling visibly reduced, and the pain left his face that no one spoke. The drones simply turned and glided back the way they had come, expecting to be followed. The message was clear. Minsu, Jiun, and Che exchanged looks. There was nothing to do but follow. They walked out of the rocky shelter and back into the main forest path. The walk felt long. Minsu's cloth-wrapped feet were tender on the rough ground. Other participants began to join the procession from side paths, all looking worn and shaken. They were the last 8, including the 3 of them. They were led out through the large doors they had entered hours before, back into the stark white preparation chamber. The difference was jarring. The cool, sterile air replaced the warm forest smell. The hum of the ship was loud again. The other participants who had been captured early were already there, sitting on benches along the wall. They looked up as the final group entered. Their expressions were a mix of relief, exhaustion, and curiosity, anyone asked questions. The alien instructors were there, standing together at the front of the room. Teacher K, Teacher L, and Teacher R. Their smooth gray faces were impossible to read. Teacher K stepped forward. Its translated voice was calm and clear, filling the quiet room. The reflex endurance drill is complete. Your physiological data has been recorded. Medical attention is available for any lingering distress. You will return to your quarters for recovery. Full analysis and individual assessments will be provided tomorrow. It was a standard dismissal. The instructors turned to leave. But then Teacher K paused. It looked across the room. Its gaze settled on Min-Soo. "Human Min-Soo," it said. "You will come with us." All eyes in the room turned to him. June tensed beside him. Cha looked up, worried. Min-Soo felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He had expected something, but not a public summons. He nodded once. "Of course." He began to walk forward, his bare, cloth-wrapped feet making no sound on the smooth floor. He felt every stare. June gave his arm a quick, firm squeeze as he passed. It was a small gesture of support. He followed the three tall instructors out of the chamber and into a bright, empty corridor. The doors hissed shut behind them, sealing off the silent room. They walked in silence for a minute, turning down a corridor Min-Soo did not recognize. Finally, they entered a small observation room. It was not the main deck. This room had a single large window looking down into a contained area below. It was a kennel, clean and clinical. And in the center of that space, lying on a padded platform, was the hunting beast. It was at rest, its powerful body relaxed, its eyes closed, and placed neatly beside its front paws, like two trophies, were Min-Soo's shoes. Min-Soo stared. They looked small and insignificant down there. "Explain your actions," Teacher K said. It did not sound angry. It sounded like a scientist asking for notes. Min-Soo kept his eyes on the beast. "I wanted to avoid capture. Your method was unconventional," Teacher L stated. "You were told the beast chases movement, heat, and scent." Teacher R added, "The logical path is to minimize those signatures. You instead removed a primary scent article and presented it as a stationary target." "Why?" Min-Soo thought carefully. He had to use simple words. "The beast is fast. Faster than me, especially in open ground. I could not win by running, so I could not play the running game. I had to change the game." "Change the game," Teacher K repeated slowly. "You gave it a different task," Min-Soo said. "Its task was to catch the scent. I put most of my scent in one place. I let it complete its task. If it is busy completing a task, it is not busy chasing me." The instructors were silent for a moment. On the platform below, the beast's ear twitched, but it did not wake. "Your footwear," Teacher K said, gesturing to the window. The beast retrieved it with care. It did not damage the articles. This programming registers this as a successful, clean capture. "According to our metrics, you were caught." "But I am here," Min-Soo said, looking at the instructor for the first time. "My body is not down there. The drill was to avoid capture. My body avoided capture. My shoes did not." A ripple passed through Teacher K's slender frame. Was it frustration? Interest? Min-Soo could not tell. "The drill measures physical reflexes," Teacher L said. "The speed of reaction, the efficiency of motion." "Was my reaction not fast?" Min-Soo asked. "I saw the thicket would slow it. I reacted. I saw the gully gave it an advantage. I reacted. I saw it was programmed, not thinking. I reacted. My reactions were in my head first, then in my feet. Is that not a reflex?" The three aliens looked at each other. A silent communication passed between them. "You prioritized cognitive interpretation over physical response," Teacher K summarized. "Yes," Min-Soo said. He felt tired. His feet hurt. "On my world, we have a saying. The fastest runner does not always win the race. Sometimes the wind changes. Sometimes you need to help someone who falls. Sometimes you need to take off your shoes." Teacher K turned from the window. "You are dismissed, human Min-Soo. Return to your quarters. Your shoes will be cleaned and returned to you. Minsu blinked. That was it? No punishment? No correction? Thank you, he said. Unsure of what else to say, he turned and left the observation room. The walk back to the residential wing felt longer. When he entered the common area for his species section, he found June waiting. She was sitting on a low couch, a cup of water in her hands. She stood up when she saw him. What happened? He told her everything. The observation room, the beast with the shoes, the questions. When he finished, she let out a low whistle. They didn't know what to do with you, she said. You broke their test. I just didn't run the way they expected, Minsu said, sinking onto the couch. He began to carefully unwrap the torn cloth from his sore feet. That's the same thing, June said, sitting beside him. To them, that test was a measuring stick. You didn't measure yourself against the stick. You used the stick to build a shelter. They don't have a score for that. Minsu looked at his raw, blistered feet. He had outsmarted a hunting beast, but he had hurt himself in the process. It was a strange victory. What will they do tomorrow? He wondered aloud. June shrugged. We'll find out. But whatever it is, it won't be another beast in a forest. You showed them that game is over. Minsu leaned his head back, closing his eyes. He thought of the beast, sleeping peacefully beside his shoes. It was just a tool following its instructions. He had found a new instruction. In the quiet of the common room, he realized he was not afraid of the instructor's judgment. He had done what felt right to survive. For a human, that was the most basic reflex of all. The next morning, a soft chime sounded in every personal quarter. A message appeared on the small data screen by the door. It was a summons for all participants to assemble in the main lecture hall immediately. There was no explanation. Minsu dressed in a fresh gray training suit. His clean shoes sat by his bed. He looked at them for a long moment. The mud was gone, but the scuffs and worn fabric remained. They were just shoes again. He put them on. The familiar fit was a comfort. He met June in the corridor. Her face was neutral, but her eyes were alert. Together, they joined the stream of other species moving through the ship's clean, curved hallways. No one spoke. The air was thick with nervous curiosity. The lecture hall was a large, semicircular room with tiers of seats looking down at a central platform. The instructors were already there, standing in a line. Teacher K was in the center. On a table beside them was a simple data PAD.AS. The last being took their seat. The room fell silent. Teacher K stepped forward. Its large, dark eyes swept over the assembled group, pausing for a fraction of a second on Minsu. The analysis of the reflex endurance drill is complete. Teacher K began, its voice filling the quiet space. Standard metrics were collected. Flight initiation speed, sustained evasion velocity, stress hormone fluctuation. These have been graded. A holographic display flickered to life above the platform, showing complex graphs and rankings. Some names appeared higher than others. Minsu's name was near the bottom. June's was low as well. By their physical measurements, they had performed poorly. A low murmur went through the room. Some beings sat a little straighter, a hint of pride in their posture. Others slumped. However, Teacher K continued and the hologram changed. Now it showed a map of the forest. It replayed the first frantic minutes, the chaotic scattering, the swift captures. The room watched the cold efficiency of the beast. Then the view focused on two signals moving steadily. Minsu and June. Observe the human participants, Teacher L's voice said as the playback continued. It showed them using the thicket, the gully, the tunnel. It showed the moment Minsu removed his shoes. The room gasped softly as the beast took them and trotted away. The map then showed the humans finding and aiding the injured Vreer, Chur, and moving to the sheltered overhang. The playback ended. The hologram faded. The stated objective was to avoid capture, Teacher K said. All of you who were physically taken by the beast failed in this primary objective. The beings who had been caught early looked down at their feet. The humans, Teacher K said, were not physically captured. Their method was anomalous. It fell outside the predicted reaction parameters for a prey species. It utilized an understanding of the hunter's program directives, not merely superior speed or stealth. Teacher R spoke now. The human reflex, as demonstrated, is not purely physical. It is a cognitive override. They assessed the problem not as be faster than the hunter, but as change the rules of the hunt. This is a reflexive adaptation of strategy. The room was utterly still. No one knew what this meant. Teacher K picked up the datapad. Therefore, the grading curve has been recalibrated. A new metric has been added to the evaluation. Adaptive problem solving under duress. The hologram flashed again. The rankings shifted dramatically. Names moved up and down. Minsu's and Jiun's names rose from the bottom to the very top of the list. Their score in the new category was off the scale. Cha's name also rose significantly, noted for successful alliance formation and composure recovery. A stunned silence filled the hall. Then, a wave of whispers. Teacher K raised a slender hand for quiet. This is not a reward for cleverness. It is a correction of our own incomplete model. We measured the leg's speed, but not the mind's. We have learned that for some species, the first and most critical reflex is not in the muscle but in the synapse. To think, to reinterpret. This will be included in all future assessments. It looked directly at Minsu. Human Minsu, your actions forced this recalibration. You have, in effect, expanded the test for all future participants. Do you have anything to say? Every eye in the room turned to him. Minsu felt his face grow warm. He was not a speaker. He preferred to listen. He stood up slowly. He cleared his throat. I just did not want to be caught, he said, his voice quiet but clear in the silent hall. On my world, we have many kinds of danger. Not all are beasts. Sometimes the danger is a storm, a cold night, a high mountain. You cannot outrun a storm. You find shelter. You cannot outrun the cold. You build a fire. The reflex is to survive, not just to run. He paused, searching for the words. The beast was a storm with teeth. I found shelter. My friend June helped me. We helped you. We worked together. That is all. He sat down. The silence returned, but it was a different kind of silence. It was thoughtful. Teacher K gave a slow, single nod. Shelter, fire, cooperation. These are survival reflexes. Noted. The session is concluded. Your updated scores are now in your records. Proceed to your scheduled technical training. The instructors turned and left the platform. The spell was broken. The room erupted into conversation. Beings crowded around Minsu and Jiun, asking questions, their earlier pride replaced by a hungry curiosity. How did you know it would take the shoes? What if it had come back? Was it part of your Earth training? Minsu and Jiun answered as best they could, but it was overwhelming. They excused themselves and made their way out into the hallway. Che was waiting for them, standing on his now-healed leg. He looked up at Minsu, his large eyes serious. Thank you, he said, for the help, and for changing the test. My score is good now. My family will be proud. Minsu smiled. You were brave. You stayed quiet when it mattered. As they walked toward the engineering lab for their next class, Jiun nudged Minsu with her elbow. Look at you. A celebrity. Minsu shook his head, looking at his shoes as they walked. I just want to learn about engines and go home someday. But he knew things were different. The test was over, but the result was a new beginning. The galaxy thought it was testing human reflexes. Now it had to wonder what else it had failed to measure. And Minsu had to wonder what other tests were coming, and what new rules might need to be quietly, calmly changed. Weeks passed. The routine of the academy settled back into its normal rhythm. There were classes on xenobiology, courses in hyperdrive mechanics, and lessons in galactic history. The drill and the strange recalibration that followed became a story. For most, it was a curious event that was slowly fading into memory. But for Minsu and Jiun, a subtle shift had occurred. They were not treated like heroes. That was not the way of the academy. Instead, they were watched, not with suspicion, but with a focused interest. The instructors and even some of the other species observed them during group problems, during physical exercises, during meals. They were looking for more of that adaptive spark. Min-Soo found it exhausting. He had never wanted to be a symbol. He was a man who liked to understand how things worked, to fix them with his hands. He spent his free hours in the engineering bay, learning the functions of plasma conduits, often with Jiun. She was better at the theoretical math, but he had a feel for the physical parts. It was quiet there, and the drones asked no questions. One afternoon, they were in the bay working on a disconnected guidance thruster. Their instructor for the module, a patient being with 4 arms named Master Engineer OL, was supervising a group across the room. Jiun was calibrating a laser level. "They still look at us, you know?" she said, not looking up from her work. "I know," Min-Soo said, wiping grease from a connector node. Teacher K was in the mess hall yesterday, just standing by the fruit dispenser, watching. "What do you think they want?" she asked. Min-Soo sighed. "I think they are waiting for us to do it again, to break another test. But life is not a test. It is just life." At that moment, Master Engineer OL approached their station. It looked at their work, its 4 eyes blinking in approval. "Your alignment is precise," it said in its buzzing voice. "You work well together. A good partnership uses the strengths of both." "Thank you, Master Engineer," Jiun said. The engineer paused. It seemed to consider something. The incident with the hunting beast. It showed a different kind of sight, not just for obstacles but for systems. You saw the beast as a system of rules. You saw a flaw in its logic. Min-Soo put down his tool. It was just a way to not get caught. To see a complex system and simplify it is a great skill, OL said. It is an engineer's skill. You simplified the problem. Remove the primary scent trigger. Offer a decoy target. The system completes its task and shuts down. It tapped the thruster housing with a delicate claw. This is also a system. Sometimes the flaw is not in the thruster, but in the power feed 3 decks away. To see that connection is a reflex of the mind. With that, the engineer moved on. Min-Soo and Jiun looked at each other. It was the first time anyone had connected what happened in the forest to something practical, to a skill. Later that cycle, a new message appeared on Min-Soo's data screen. It was a request, not an order, from Teacher K. It asked him to come to the small observation room overlooking the kennel. When he arrived, Teacher K was alone. The beast was in its enclosure below, awake this time. It was pacing slowly, a contained flow of muscle. The shoes were gone. "You requested my shoes back," Min-Soo said. "It was not a question. They were returned to your quarters," Teacher K said. "That is not why I asked you here." It gestured to the beast below. "The specimen is being repurposed. Its hunting protocols are being rewritten. It will no longer be used for simple chase reflex drills." Min-Soo felt a strange pang. Not for the beast, but for the simplicity of the old test. What will it do? It will be part of a new module. One on complex system analysis and nonlinear problem solving. It will be a variable in environmental puzzles. Teacher K turned its dark eyes on Min-Soo. "Your actions made the old module obsolete. You helped create the need for this new one." Min-Soo didn't know what to say. "I did not mean to cause trouble. You caused learning," Teacher K corrected. "That is the purpose of this academy. We learned that our definitions were narrow. You learned you could change a game. The beast learned a new task." They watched the creature pace. It seemed restless, but no longer hungry. It was waiting for its new purpose. "Humans have a history of this," Teacher K stated. "You look at a wall and dream of a ladder. You look at a river and dream of a bridge. You look at a predator and see not just fear, but a pattern to be redirected. This is your reflexive advantage. It is not faster nerves. It is boundless, practical imagination." Min-Soo thought of the first humans looking at a storm and dreaming of a roof, of looking at a vast ocean and dreaming of a boat. It was the same instinct. It was so basic to him, he had never given it a name. "What do you want from me?" Min-Soo asked quietly. "Nothing," Teacher K said. The observation is complete. The data is logged. You may go. Minsu turned to leave, but stopped at the door. He looked back. The new module. For the beast. Will it be a good test? Teacher K's head tilted. It will be a more honest one. It will test what species truly do when faced with a complex problem. Not just how fast they run, but how well they think. You showed us that distinction is important. Minsu nodded. He left the observation room and walked back through the quiet halls. He did not go to the engineering bay or his quarters. He went to the viewport at the end of the residential wing, a place where you could see the stars. June found him there later. She stood beside him, looking out at the endless dark sprinkled with light. Teacher K saw me, he said. They are changing the tests because of what happened. Good, June said simply. They should. They called it practical imagination, he said. June smiled. I like that. It is just looking at a thing and seeing what it could be, instead of just what it is meant to be. They stood in comfortable silence. The galaxy outside was vast and full of unknown rules, unknown walls, unknown storms. Minsu thought of the beast now being reprogrammed for puzzles. He thought of his shoes sitting under his bunk. He thought of Cho, who now greeted them with confidence in the halls. The test had begun with a beast unleashed to measure reflexes. It had ended with the beast holding shoes, and the galaxy holding a new question. It was not a question with an answer yet. It was just a quiet, dawning understanding. Humanity's reflex was not to be the fastest or the strongest. It was to be the one who, when faced with an unsolvable hunt, would quietly take off their shoes, change the rules, and walk home barefoot. And in doing so, they would quietly change the world or the academy, or just the fate of a single, injured friend. Minsu put his hands in his pockets. He felt calm. The test was finally, truly over. The real work could begin.